The Ravager fleet appeared on the sensors like a dark tide. 3,000 machine constructs, more than had ever attacked at once. They moved in perfect formation, surrounding the human defensive perimeter from multiple angles. Admiral Ji-hoon stood on the bridge of the Danby, his face calm despite the impossible odds. He had fought this war for 15 years. He knew what was coming. All ships, battle stations. This is the fight we've been preparing for. Hold the line. The human fleet responded immediately. Every available vessel moved into position. 94 ships against 3,000 Ravagers. The math was simple and brutal. Commander Tae-sung watched the deployment with growing dread. "Admiral, you can't win this fight. You need to evacuate. Evacuate to where?" Ji-hoon asked. "Behind us are 3 colony worlds with 38 million people. If we run, they die. We stay." Lieutenant Minho stepped forward. "Then we stay too. Coalition fleet will fight alongside you." Ji-hoon looked at him in surprise. "You have 12 ships. You'll be destroyed, probably," Minho admitted. His earlier hostility was gone, replaced by determination. "But we're not leaving you to face this alone. Not anymore." Captain Yuna activated her comm to the Coalition fleet. "All Coalition vessels form up with human forces. We're going to hold this line together." Jinwoo was already working with human engineers sharing Coalition technology. "Your kinetic weapons work against Ravagers. Our quantum torpedoes bypass their shields. If we combine our strengths, we might have a chance." The Coalition Council's response came through moments later. It was Counselor Daesung, his crystalline voice resonating with urgency. "Commander Tae-sung, Fleet Admiral Dokyun is en route with the First Armada. Hold position for 36 hours. The Ravagers will be here in 24, Tae-sung replied. Then hold for 24 hours. Help is coming." The combined human coalition fleet waited as the Ravagers approached. In the hours before the battle, something unexpected happened. The crews began to integrate. Coalition engineers worked alongside humans to modify weapon systems. Vraxian tactical officers shared sensor data with human commanders. Avarian pilots flew training exercises with human fighter crews. Species that had barely trusted each other days ago were now preparing to die side by side. Dr. Hana found herself coordinating medical teams from multiple species. She organized triage procedures, shared supplies, and prepared for the casualties that everyone knew were coming. A young human pilot named Jisoo sat with a Vraxian weapons officer named Youngsoo, sharing stories about their homes. Jisoo was 19 years old. She had been fighting Ravagers since she was 17. Youngsoo was twice her age but had never seen combat before today. "Are you scared?" Youngsoo asked. "Always," Jisoo said. "Fear means you're alive. You just can't let it stop you from doing what needs to be done." The Ravagers entered weapons range exactly on schedule. The battle that followed was the most brutal anyone had witnessed. The machines attacked from all sides, their formations perfect and relentless. They adapted to tactics within minutes, learning from every engagement. When human kinetic weapons proved effective, the Ravagers adjusted their armor. When coalition energy weapons bypassed their shields, they recalibrated. But the combined fleet had advantages the Ravagers didn't expect. Human armor absorbed damage that would have destroyed coalition vessels. Coalition weapons struck targets that human kinetics couldn't reach. Together, they covered each other's weaknesses. The battle raged for hours. Ships on both sides were destroyed in brilliant explosions. The space between the fleets became a graveyard of twisted metal and debris. A coalition cruiser took critical damage, its reactor failing. The crew prepared to abandon ship. But a human destroyer, the UESV Taeguk, positioned itself alongside and extended emergency power lines. The coalition ship kept fighting, powered by human systems. Lieutenant Minho served on the Taeguk's bridge, coordinating fire with human officers. He no longer saw them as primitives or deceivers. He saw warriors who fought with courage and determination beyond anything his species had taught him. Captain Yuna's ship lost its main weapons. Human fighters from the Danby formed a protective screen around her vessel, sacrificing themselves to keep her crew alive. When she tried to thank them, the fighter pilot simply responded, "No one gets left behind." The casualties mounted. Thousands dead on both sides. The defensive line held, but barely. Ships were running out of ammunition. Crews were exhausted. Medical bays were overwhelmed. Admiral Ji-hoon studied the tactical display. The human fleet was at 30% combat effectiveness. The coalition ships were even more damaged. The Ravagers still had overwhelming numbers. All ships, this is Danby Actual, Ji-hoon said. His voice was heavy with the weight of what he was about to order. Prepare for Protocol Phoenix. Dr. Hana's face went pale. She knew what that meant. Every human officer did. Protocol Phoenix was the final option. Every damaged ship would overload its reactor and ram the Ravager command nodes. Maximum destruction at the cost of every crew member aboard. It was a death sentence for thousands. Commander Tae-sung understood immediately. Negative, Admiral. Coalition fleet will execute ramming protocols. Human forces have carried this burden long enough. Commander, your ships aren't designed for it. You'll all die. So will you, Tae-sung said. But we choose to do this. You taught us what it means to stand between monsters and innocence. Now let us prove we learned the lesson. Other coalition captains echoed his words, species from across the galaxy, many of whom had mocked human technology just days ago, now volunteered to sacrifice themselves using human tactics. Captain Yuna transmitted from her damaged vessel. My ship can't fight anymore, but it can ram. Give me a target, Admiral. Jin Woo, still in the Danby's engineering section, spoke up. All damaged ships, coalition and human both. If we combine our remaining power and coordinate the rams, we can take out their command structure. It'll break their coordination. It was suicide. Everyone knew it. But it would work. Admiral Ji-hoon felt tears in his eyes for the first time in years. These people, these coalition members who barely knew humans existed a week ago, were willing to die for the same cause that had consumed 15 years of his life. All ships begin ramming approach, he ordered. His voice was steady despite his emotions. It's been an honor serving with you all. Before the damaged ships could begin their final runs, new contacts appeared on the sensors. Massive ones. Hundreds of them. Fleet Admiral Dokyeon had arrived early with the Coalition First Armada. He had pushed his fleet beyond safety limits, risking everything to arrive in time. All forces, this is Coalition First Armada. We're coming in hot. Hold your positions. 800 Coalition warships dropped out of hyperspace directly into the battle zone, the most powerful military force the Coalition had ever assembled, arriving like an avenging storm. The Ravagers tried to adapt, but they couldn't adjust to such overwhelming force. Coalition ships, fresh and fully armed, tore through the machine fleet with devastating efficiency. Combined with the battered but determined human Coalition defensive force, the tide finally turned. The battle lasted another 3 hours. When it ended, the Ravager fleet was destroyed. Complete victory, but at a terrible cost. 47 Coalition ships were lost. 63 human vessels destroyed. Total casualties approached 100,000. In the aftermath, Admiral Ji-hoon stood in the Danby's memorial room, adding new names to the wall. So many names. Human and Coalition together now, united in sacrifice. Commander Tae-sung found him there. The Council has made their decision. Humanity is granted full Coalition membership. Earth is recognized as a primary military power with command authority over defensive operations. Ji-hoon nodded, but the victory felt hollow. Too many had died. There's more, Tae-sung continued. The truth about the Ravagers and your 15-year war has been revealed to all Coalition citizens. The response is overwhelming. Every species wants to support Earth's military. Many are demanding to serve in the defensive fleets. Wait, and will they? Ji-hoon asked. Yes, we're forming integrated combat units. Human and Coalition forces working together permanently. You taught us how to fight. Now we'll fight together. 6 months later, the joint Coalition human fleet had pushed the Ravagers back to the original defensive perimeter. The war continued, but humanity no longer fought alone. The UESV Taihyun was recovered and restored, transformed into a memorial museum. Dr. Hana served as its curator, telling the story of the secret war to visitors from across the galaxy. Commander Tae-sung received command of the first joint species Supercarrier, a vessel that combined human durability with Coalition technology. Lieutenant Minho served as his tactical officer, forever changed by what he had witnessed. Admiral Ji-hoon finally retired after 15 years of continuous combat. At the ceremony honoring him, representatives from every Coalition species attended. He received their highest military decoration, standing beside the names of the 437,000 humans who had died in the secret war. In his acceptance speech, Ji-hoon kept it simple. We built ships that you called primitive. We fought a war you didn't know existed. We bled in silence so others could live in peace. We did it not for glory or recognition. We did it because someone had to. because it was right. The Coalition expedition fleet emerged from hyperspace in Sector 17, and Commander Tae-sung immediately understood that everything General Bora had said was true. The sector was a war zone. Debris fields stretched for millions of kilometers in every direction. Shattered hulks of ships, both human and machine, floated in the darkness. Some were recent casualties, their metal still glowing from weapons fire. Others were older, covered in space dust and pockmarked by micrometeors. But what shocked Tae-sung most were the human vessels. Dozens of them, arranged in defensive formations around 3 Coalition colony worlds. The ships were battered and scarred, their armor plates scorched black, their hulls patched with mismatched metal. They looked like they had been fighting for years without proper repair facilities, because they had. Coalition Fleet, this is Admiral Jihoon aboard the UESV Danby. Welcome to Sector 17. We've been expecting you. The human supercarrier that responded was even larger than the Taehyun. It hung in space like a battered fortress, its weapons bristling from every surface. Around it, smaller human vessels maintained careful patrol patterns. Commander Tae-sung responded. Admiral, we're here to verify the claims made by General Bora regarding human military operations in this sector. Understood. Transmitting docking coordinates. We'll give you the full tour. The Coalition ships docked with the Danby and the delegation transferred aboard. Admiral Jihoon met them in the docking bay. He was older than General Bora, his face deeply lined and his eyes carrying the weight of 15 years of constant war. His uniform was clean but worn, patched in several places. Welcome aboard, Jihoon said. His voice was tired but steady. I wish we were meeting under better circumstances. He led them through the ship, and what they saw disturbed them deeply. The corridors were filled with crew members who looked exhausted beyond measure. Young men and women with old eyes, moving with the efficiency of people who had done the same tasks 1,000 times. The walls were covered in memorial plaques listing names of the dead. So many names. How long have you been out here? Captain Yuna asked. I've commanded this sector for 8 years, Jihoon said. Before that, I served on the destroyer Unji for 4 years. Before that, training and preparation. I've been fighting the Ravagers since I was 23 years old. I'm 41 now. He showed them the ship's facilities. Medical bays filled with wounded personnel. Engineering sections where crews worked around the clock to keep damaged systems functional. Mess halls where people ate ration packs because fresh food was a luxury they couldn't spare resources for. We rotate crews every 6 months, Jihoon explained. 6 months on the line, 3 months back at Earth for rest and refit. It's the only way to prevent complete psychological breakdown. Even then we lose people, not to combat but to exhaustion and stress. They passed a memorial wall. Thousands of names were etched into the metal surface, organized by ship and date of death. Dr. Hana stopped to read them, her fingers tracing the letters. These are just from this sector, Jihoon said quietly. Every defensive zone has a wall like this. Every ship carries the names of their fallen. We don't forget them, even if the rest of the galaxy never knows they existed. Lieutenant Minho had been quiet since boarding, his earlier confidence shaken. Why? He asked suddenly. Why sacrifice so much for people who don't even know you're here? Jihoon looked at him steadily. Because someone had to. Because we saw what the Ravagers do to civilizations. We saw the destroyed worlds, the extinct species, the billions dead. We knew if we didn't stop them here, they would reach Earth eventually. And if they reached Earth, they would reach the Coalition core worlds too. So we fight. He led them to the observation deck. Through the reinforced windows, they could see the human defensive line. Ships arranged in careful patterns. Sensor stations monitoring the dark space beyond and in the distance. The 3 Coalition colonies they were protecting. Those worlds have 38 million people, Jihoon said. They don't know we're here. They don't know that twice in the past year, Ravager fleets tried to reach them. They don't know that we lost 4 ships stopping those attacks. They live in peace because we die in silence. Jinwoo was examining the ship's technology with wonder. Despite the battle damage and wear, he could see the sophistication of the design. Everything was built for redundancy and repair. Systems could be torn apart and rebuilt with basic tools. Components were standardized so any crew member could perform emergency maintenance. Your ships are designed to survive, he said. Not to win elegantly, but to keep fighting no matter what. Exactly, Jihoon said. Coalition vessels are more advanced, but they're fragile. Lose your shields and you're dead. Lose your reactor and you're dead. Our ships keep fighting when they're half destroyed. Because against the Ravagers you need to be able to take hits and keep going. They toured other vessels in the fleet. Each one told the same story. Crews pushed to their limits, fighting a war that never ended, protecting people who would never thank them. The coalition delegation saw exhaustion, determination, and quiet pride in what they were accomplishing. Then the alarms began to sound. Ravager contact, a human officer announced calmly, as if this happened every day. It probably did. Bearing 270. Count is 300 plus. Estimated time to engagement 40 minutes. Admiral Ji-hoon turned to Commander Tae-sung. You wanted to see what we fight. You're about to get a demonstration. I recommend you return to your ships or take shelter in the reinforced sections. No, Tae-sung said. We stay, we need to see this. Ji-hoon nodded. Then follow me to the bridge. Stay out of the way, and if I order you to evacuate, you go immediately. Understood? The bridge was organized chaos. Hundreds of crew members at stations, coordinating the movements of dozens of ships. Holographic displays showed the approaching Ravager fleet. The machines were moving in perfect formation, adjusting their course with mechanical precision. All ships, this is Danby Actual. Ji-hoon's voice was broadcast across the fleet. Standard defensive formation. Protect the colonies. Hold the line. The response came from every human vessel. Holding the line. The coalition delegation watched as the human fleet moved into position. The ships formed layers of defense, each one positioned to support the others. They didn't charge forward to meet the enemy. They held their ground, creating a wall between the machines and the colonies. The Ravagers came into weapons range, and space erupted in violence. The machines were terrifying. Each one was the size of a cruiser, covered in weapons and armor that shifted and adapted. They moved with perfect coordination, concentrating fire on individual human ships with brutal efficiency. The human fleet fought back with everything they had. Kinetic weapons punched through Ravager armor. Missiles tracked targets through evasive maneuvers. The larger ships absorbed damage meant for smaller vessels. Their thick armor plates scorched and torn but holding. Captain Yuna watched in horror as a human destroyer took a direct hit. The explosion tore through the ship's midsection, venting atmosphere and debris, but the forward and aft sections sealed themselves, and the ship kept fighting with whatever weapons still worked. UESV Hyojin reports critical damage, an officer announced. She's falling back. Negative, a woman's voice responded over the comm. Hyojin can still fight. We stay on the line, Ji-hoon's voice was firm. Captain Insuk, fall back. That's an order. Sir, there's a coalition colony transport in our sector. If we fall back, they're exposed. The transport was a civilian vessel running cargo between the colonies. It had no idea a battle was happening around it. No idea that a damaged human destroyer was positioning itself as a shield. Hyojin, pull back now. Ji-hoon ordered. Sorry, Admiral. Can't do that. Not while they're in danger. The coalition delegation watched in stunned silence as the destroyer moved directly into the path of concentrated Ravager fire. The ship took hit after hit, its armor failing, its systems exploding. In 30 seconds, it was completely destroyed. 3,000 humans died protecting a cargo ship that never knew it was in danger. The battle continued for 2 hours. The Ravagers pressed forward, and the human fleet held them back. Ship after ship took damage, but the line never broke. Casualties mounted, but the colonies remained safe. Finally, the Ravagers withdrew. They had lost 2/3 of their force, but inflicted terrible damage on the human fleet. 5 ships destroyed, 14 more heavily damaged. Total casualties, 11,000. In the aftermath, the coalition delegation stood in shocked silence. They had witnessed war on a scale they had never imagined. Not clean, not elegant, but brutal and desperate and real. Lieutenant Minho's earlier hostility was gone, replaced by something closer to horror. You fight like this every week? Sometimes twice a week, Ji-hoon said quietly. He looked exhausted, aged years in just a few hours. We've been doing this for 15 years. We'll keep doing it for as long as we can. Commander Tae-sung made his decision. He activated his communicator to transmit directly to the Coalition Council. This is Commander Tae-sung. The human claims are verified. The Ravager threat is real. Human forces have been holding defensive lines for 15 years, protecting coalition territory at enormous cost. Recommend immediate full military deployment and formal alliance with Earth. The emergency session of the Coalition Security Council convened within 12 hours. Representatives from every major species gathered in the grand chamber, their forms appearing as holograms around the circular room. At the center stood General Bora, Earth's military liaison, who had arrived aboard a human vessel that appeared seemingly from nowhere. The ship itself had caused panic. It had jumped into Coalition space without authorization, ignoring all standard protocols. When challenged, it simply transmitted diplomatic codes and requested immediate audience with the Council. The vessel was another supercarrier, this one fully operational and crewed by 12,000 humans. General Bora was older than Dr. Hana, her hair gray and her face lined with years of stress. She wore a simple military uniform without decoration. Though her bearing suggested decades of command experience, Counselor Daesung, the head of the Security Council and a member of the crystalline Crinarian species, spoke first. His voice resonated like crystal bells. General Bora, Earth stands accused of deception, espionage, and violation of first contact protocols. You have built a secret military fleet and hidden it from this council for 60 years. Explain yourself. Bora stood calmly before the assembled representatives. We did what was necessary to protect both Earth and the Coalition. We make no apologies for that. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Lieutenant Minho, present as part of Commander Taisung's delegation, spoke up. You lied to us. You pretended to be primitive while building weapons behind our backs. We never lied, Bora said. We simply didn't share everything. Just as you didn't share everything with us. What are you implying? Daesung asked. Bora touched a control on her wrist. A holographic display appeared above the chamber, showing star maps and data streams. When we first detected your coalition 60 years ago, we also detected the Ravagers. We ran projections and realized they were heading toward your territory, so we did what you would not. We prepared for war. She pulled up images of the machine horrors, massive constructs of metal and circuitry, each one designed for destruction. The representatives shifted uncomfortably. The Ravagers were supposed to be contained, not a real threat. The Ravagers broke through your defensive perimeter 15 years ago, Bora said. Sector 19, a fleet of 300 machines. They were heading toward 3 coalition colonies with a combined population of 14 billion people. More images appeared, battle footage from human ships. The Ravagers tore through space, their weapons cutting through everything in their path. Then human vessels appeared, engaging the machines in brutal combat. We intercepted them, Bora said. 8 human ships against 300 Ravager constructs. We fought for 6 days. We lost all 8 ships. 4,000 people died. But the Ravagers were stopped and your colonies never knew they were in danger. The chamber fell silent. This happened again and again, Bora continued. Sector 23, Sector 41, Sector 17. Every time we held the line. Every time we bled. Every time your people stayed safe while we died in silence. She pulled up casualty reports. The numbers scrolled across the display. 400,000 names. 400,000 humans who had died protecting coalition citizens. You covered up the Ravager breaches, Bora said, her voice hard. You told your people the lost colonies were due to civil conflicts or accidents. You chose appeasement and denial over preparation. We chose to fight. Counselor Daesung's crystalline form flickered. Even if what you say is true, you should have informed us. We could have helped, could you? Bora asked. When we analyzed your military doctrine, we found that your response to the Ravager threat was to hope your defensive line would hold forever. You had no plans for if it failed. No backup forces. No emergency protocols. You chose to believe the problem would solve itself. She gestured to the battle footage still playing on the display. We couldn't risk that kind of thinking. So we built our own fleet. We trained our own soldiers. And when the time came, we fought your war for you. A representative from the Avarian species, a bird-like being with golden feathers, spoke up. Why reveal yourselves now? Why not continue in secret? Because we're losing, Bora said simply. The bluntness of her words shocked the chamber. 15 years of constant warfare. 38% casualties. The Ravagers adapt to our tactics faster than we can develop new ones. We can hold the line for maybe 6 more months. After that, the defensive perimeter collapses completely. She let that sink in. When that happens, the Ravagers will pour into Coalition core territory. Your homeworlds, your colonies, everything. We came forward now because we need your help. Not to save Earth, to save everyone. How do we know you're telling the truth? Minho demanded. This could all be an elaborate deception. Bora smiled without humor. Commander Tae-sung, would you like to verify our claims? Tae-sung stood. He had been reviewing data for hours, cross-referencing human reports with coalition records. I've checked the dates and locations. Every colony we lost in the past 15 years corresponds to a human battle report. Every Ravager sighting we dismissed as sensor errors matches a human engagement. The evidence supports their story. He pulled up his own analysis. More concerning, the Ravagers are accelerating their offensive. The time between breaches is decreasing. What was once a breach every 2 years is now every 6 months. The pattern suggests a coordinated assault is coming. Jinwoo, who had been studying human technology, added his findings. The human vessels are specifically designed to fight Ravagers. Kinetic weapons penetrate their adaptive shields. Physical armor withstands their weaponry better than energy fields. Large crews provide redundancy against casualties. Everything about their design makes sense once you understand what they're fighting. We need to see this for ourselves, Dae-sung said. General Bora, we require proof of your claims beyond data files. Bora had been expecting this. We're prepared to take a coalition delegation to the front lines. You can see what we've been fighting. You can meet the crews who have been bleeding for 15 years. You can witness the Ravagers firsthand. She transmitted coordinates. This is Sector 17. It's where our main defensive fleet is currently stationed. Admiral Ji-hoon commands the forces there. He's authorized to show you everything. Dae-sung consulted with other council members. Finally, he spoke. Very well. Commander Tae-sung will lead a coalition expedition to these coordinates. You will verify the human claims and report back. If what General Bora says is true, the council will need to make significant decisions about our defensive strategy. Minho stood abruptly. This is a mistake. We're walking into a trap. Perhaps, Dae-sung said. But if they're telling the truth, we're already in danger. We need to know. The session ended with more questions than answers. General Bora departed, heading back to her vessel. Dr. Hana approached Commander Tae-sung as the chamber emptied. Thank you for believing us, she said quietly. I'm not sure I do, Tae-sung admitted, but I'm willing to investigate. If your people have been fighting for 15 years, I need to see it with my own eyes. Captain Yuna joined them. When do we leave? Immediately, Tae-sung said. Assemble a team. Scientific personnel, military observers, medical staff. We need comprehensive documentation of whatever we find. Jinwoo approached, carrying data pads. I'm coming with you. If human technology is as advanced as it appears, I need to study it properly. Even Lieutenant Minho reluctantly agreed to join. Someone needs to keep an eye on the humans. Make sure they're not hiding anything else. The expedition fleet assembled over the next 6 hours. 12 coalition vessels ranging from scientific survey ships to military escorts. They would travel to Sector 17 and discover the truth about humanity's secret war. As they prepared to depart, a medical team discovered something in the Taehyun's cryobay. A single-occupied pod tucked away in a corner. The man inside was barely alive, kept in suspended animation by emergency systems. His name, according to the pod's records, was Captain Hyunwoo. He had served aboard a vessel called the UESV Nari. His medical file indicated severe radiation exposure and multiple traumatic injuries. He had been placed in cryosleep 15 years ago with a note. Survived the Battle of Sector 19. Preserved for testimony if secret is revealed. They revived him carefully. Hyunwoo woke confused and disoriented, asking immediately about his ship and his crew. When told that 15 years had passed, his face crumpled. Did we hold? He asked. Did the colony survive? They survived, Dr. Hana told him gently. Your sacrifice wasn't in vain. Hyunwoo closed his eyes. Good, that's good. We lost so many, but it was worth it if they lived. Commander Tae-sung interviewed the recovered captain. Hyunwoo described the Battle of Sector 19 in detail. The desperate fighting, the impossible odds. The moment his ship took a direct hit and he was blown out into space. How he was recovered by the Taehyun before it was abandoned. We knew we were going to die, Hyunwoo said. All 8 ships. We knew the odds. But those colonies had 14 billion people. Children, families, we couldn't let the machines reach them. His words were recorded and transmitted to the Coalition Council. The testimony of a man who had fought and nearly died protecting people who didn't even know he existed. The Coalition Command Center on Station SciFiPrime was in chaos. News of the human vessel had spread quickly through the ranks. And now every species in the Coalition wanted answers. Commander Taesung stood before the holographic display, watching as data from the ship's computers streamed across multiple screens. Around him, specialists from a dozen different species worked frantically to analyze the information. Dr. Hana sat in a corner, under guard. She wasn't technically a prisoner, but two armed soldiers stood nearby watching her every move. She had stopped trying to explain. They would learn the truth soon enough from the ship's logs. Jinwoo arrived 3 hours after the initial discovery. He was the Coalition's leading expert on alien technology, a Vraxian who had spent his entire life studying how different species developed their tools and weapons. He was brilliant, methodical, and completely convinced that the human ship couldn't possibly be what it appeared to be. "Show me everything," he said, not bothering with greetings. Taesung pulled up the analysis reports. Metal composition, power systems, computer architecture, construction methods, every test they had run on the vessel. Jinwoo studied the data for hours. He didn't speak, didn't eat, didn't rest. He simply absorbed information and processed it. Finally, he looked up with confusion written clearly on his scaled face. "This is human," he said, without question. The construction methods match their industrial signatures perfectly. The computer code uses their languages. The dimensions are designed for their body size, but the technology level doesn't make sense. "Explain," Taesung said. "Humans should not have been able to build this 60 years ago," Jinwoo said. "According to our records, they didn't have the metallurgy, the power systems, or the manufacturing capacity. Yet here it is, undeniably real and undeniably human." Lieutenant Minho slammed his fist on a table. "Then they lied to us. They had all this technology and pretended to be primitive so they could spy on us. Or they had a very good reason for keeping it secret," Captain Yuna said quietly. She had been reviewing the ship's recovered logs, and what she was reading disturbed her deeply. Taesung turned to her. "What did you find?" Yuna transferred a file to the main display. It was a video log dated 58 years ago. The recording quality was poor, but the image was clear enough. A human woman in a military uniform stood on what appeared to be the bridge of the Taehyun, though the construction was unfinished around her. "I am Admiral Sujin," the woman said. Her voice was calm, but carried the weight of someone who had seen too much. "This recording is for whoever finds this ship. If you're watching this, it means our secret has been discovered. Good. You need to understand what we've been doing and why." The Admiral walked across the unfinished bridge, her footsteps echoing in the empty space. 58 years ago, Earth developed long-range sensor technology. We pointed our instruments at the stars and found you, the Galactic Coalition, hundreds of species living in peace across thousands of worlds. She paused, looking directly at the camera. "We also found something else. On the far edge of the galaxy beyond your borders, machines, millions of them. Destroying everything in their path? You call them the Ravagers. We detected them exterminating civilizations, consuming resources, spreading like a plague." The bridge fell silent. Every member of the Coalition command team knew about the Ravagers, though it was not public knowledge. The mechanical horrors had been a distant threat for decades, contained by the Coalition's defensive perimeter. Admiral Sujin continued. "We ran projections. The Ravagers were heading toward Coalition space. Your defensive line would hold for a while, but eventually they would break through, and when they did, billions would die. Earth was hidden behind your territory, safe for now. We had a choice." The Admiral's face hardened. "We could announce ourselves, join the Coalition, and hope you would protect us. Or we could prepare ourselves to help you fight when the time came. We chose to prepare." The video showed images of construction, massive shipyards hidden in deep space, automated mining operations in remote star systems, thousands of humans working in secret to build a military fleet. "We built in secret because we couldn't risk the Ravagers detecting us," Sujin said. "Every transmission, every ship, every sign of our existence could draw their attention. So we stayed quiet. We watched you. We learned from you, and we built ships designed to fight machines." The video showed the Taehyun under construction, hundreds of similar vessels being built simultaneously. "Our ships look primitive to you because they're not designed to fight organic beings," Sujin explained. "Ravagers have adaptive shields that absorb energy weapons. They analyze plasma and learn to deflect it. But kinetic weapons, simple metal moving fast, they work. Physical armor protects against their weapons better than energy fields. Large crews mean redundancy when casualties mount. She walked to a viewport showing the stars. We built these ships for war, real war. The kind where entire crews die and ships keep fighting. We built them to bleed and endure and keep going when everything else fails. The Admiral turned back to the camera. Her eyes were tired. If you're watching this, the secret is out. You know about our fleet now. I hope you understand why we did this. We weren't trying to deceive you. We were trying to be ready to help you when the time came. The video flickered. Behind the Admiral, through the unfinished walls of the bridge, other construction bays were visible. Dozens of massive shipyards, each building vessels even larger than the Taihyun. The war is coming, Sujin said. Sooner than any of us want. When it arrives, I hope you'll accept our help. We've sacrificed too much to prepare for this fight. We can't stop now. The video ended. The command center was silent. Taesung felt like the floor had dropped out from under him. Humans had known about the Ravagers for 60 years. They had been preparing for war while the Coalition pretended the threat didn't exist. This is insane, Minho said. They're telling us they built an entire military fleet based on speculation about machines we barely acknowledge exist. Are they wrong? Yuna asked. She pulled up classified reports from the Coalition's eastern sectors. 3 colonies lost in the past 15 years. Official explanation: civil conflict and navigational accidents. But look at the pattern. Look at the dates. Look at the locations. She overlaid the lost colonies on a star map. They formed a line progressing steadily toward Coalition core territory. The Ravagers are already here, Yuna said, and we've been lying about it. Jinwoo was frantically searching through the recovered data. There's more here. Fleet manifests, construction schedules, deployment orders. This isn't just one ship. Humans have built hundreds of vessels. He pulled up a document titled Project Taeguk, Total Fleet Composition. The list was extensive. Supercarriers, battleships, destroyers, assault cruisers. Each entry included construction dates, crew complements, and current status. They have an entire navy, Jinwoo whispered. Hidden from us for decades. Taesung scrolled through the list. So many ships, so many crews. The industrial capacity required to build this fleet was staggering. How had humans accomplished this while maintaining the appearance of a barely spacefaring species? Then he saw the casualty reports. Look at this, he said, his voice hollow. The others gathered around. The reports detailed ship losses, crew casualties, battle engagements. The numbers were horrifying. 38% fleet losses, over 400,000 casualties. When did this happen? Minho asked. These dates are all within the past 15 years. Dr. Hana spoke from her corner. Her voice was quiet but clear. We've been fighting them, the Ravagers, for 15 years while you pretended they didn't exist. We've been holding the line in the outer sectors, protecting your colonies, dying so you could stay safe. That's impossible, Minho said, but his voice lacked conviction. Is it? Hana stood up and the guards moved to stop her, but Taesung waved them back. She walked to the display and pulled up a map. Here, Sector 19. You lost a colony there 12 years ago. Official report says civil war. The truth? A Ravager fleet broke through. We lost 8 ships stopping them. 4,000 casualties. The colony never knew what happened. She pulled up another location, Sector 23. 10 years ago. Another breakthrough. We stopped them again. 3,000 more dead. Location after location. Battle after battle. Each one a secret war that humanity had fought alone. We've been bleeding for you in silence, Hana said. Dying for you in secret. 400,000 people have given their lives protecting Coalition citizens who don't even know they exist. And you call us deceivers. Taesung stared at the data. The pattern was undeniable. Every Coalition colony loss lined up with a human battle report. Every unexplained disappearance matched a Ravager incursion that humans had fought. Why didn't you tell us? He asked. Because you wouldn't have believed us, Hana said. Because your leaders chose appeasement over preparation. Because we couldn't risk you making peace with the Ravagers and giving away our location. So we fought alone. The fleet, Jinwoo said, still studying the manifests. The status report says strategic collapse predicted in 6 to 8 months. What does that mean? Hana's face was grim. It means we're losing. 15 years of constant warfare and we can't hold much longer. The Ravagers are learning, adapting. The stars in the Viridian sector shimmered with an unusual glow that afternoon. Commander Taesung stood on the bridge of his warship, staring at the readings on his screen. Something massive was hiding in the nearby nebula. something that shouldn't be there. Tae-sung was a Vraxian, a reptilian species known throughout the galaxy for their military excellence. His scales were dark green, marked with the scars of 20 years of service to the Galactic Coalition. He commanded a survey fleet of 12 ships, tasked with mapping unexplored regions of space. "Commander, the gravitational readings are off the scale," said Lieutenant Minho from his station. The younger Vraxian officer looked excited. "Whatever is in there is at least 3 times the size of our flagship." Tae-sung nodded slowly. "Send a probe. Let's see what we're dealing with." The probe launched and disappeared into the purple clouds of the nebula. Minutes passed. Then the images started coming back. The entire bridge crew fell silent. A ship. No, not just a ship. A massive supercarrier floating dead in space. Its hull was dark and battered, covered in micrometeor impacts and radiation scoring. The vessel was enormous, easily dwarfing anything in the Coalition fleet. Captain Yuna leaned forward from her station. She was an Avarian, a bird-like species with brilliant blue feathers and sharp eyes that missed nothing. "That design is ancient. Look at those armor plates. Nobody has used physical armor in 300 years. Minho laughed, a harsh clicking sound. "It's a museum piece. Probably some old colony ship that got lost. Those engines look like they run on chemical fuel. Can you imagine?" Tae-sung studied the vessel carefully. Something about it bothered him, but he couldn't place what. "Prepare a boarding team. We need to investigate. And bring Dr. Hana." Dr. Hana was human. She was one of only 15 humans currently serving in Coalition space. Her species had joined the Coalition just 40 years ago as probationary members. Most species considered humans primitive and barely space-worthy. They had been given faster-than-light technology as a gift, a way to help them catch up to the rest of the galaxy. Hana was short by most species standards, with dark hair tied back in a practical bun. She had been studying ancient vessels for the past 5 years, hoping to prove that humans could contribute meaningfully to Coalition science. When she arrived on the bridge, Tae-sung showed her the images. Her face went pale. "Something wrong, Doctor?" Tae-sung asked. "No, sir. Just surprised by the size." Hana's voice was steady, but her hands trembled slightly as she held her data pad. The boarding team assembled in the shuttle bay. 20 Coalition soldiers, 3 scientists, and Dr. Hana. They crossed the distance to the derelict vessel in tense silence. As they approached, details became clearer. The ship's hull was covered in strange writing, faded but still visible. The airlock was massive, designed for beings much larger than any current Coalition species. "This thing must be from before the first unification," Minho said confidently. "Back when species still built ships for individual systems instead of standardized designs." They docked with the airlock. It took several minutes for their engineers to override the ancient systems, but finally the door opened with a groan of protest. Inside, emergency lighting flickered on. The corridors were huge and empty. Dust floated in the air, disturbed for the first time in what must have been centuries. The walls were bare metal, reinforced with thick support beams. "Everything about the design screamed durability over elegance, primitive," Minho muttered. "Whoever built this was afraid of everything. Look at this armor thickness. You could survive a direct hit from a fusion bomb." "Maybe that was the point," Hana said quietly. They moved deeper into the ship. Each corridor looked the same, practical and utilitarian. There were no decorations, no artwork, nothing to indicate who had built this vessel or why. Just endless passages designed for efficiency. The team found crew quarters. The beds were human-sized. Minho didn't notice, but Hana did. She said nothing. They found storage bays filled with equipment. Everything was labeled in a language that the Coalition computers couldn't immediately translate. Hana's translator worked, though. She could read every word. Her heart pounded in her chest. "This way," Tae-sung said, following the corridor toward what his scanner indicated was the command center. The bridge was enormous. Workstations lined the walls, each one dark and dead. In the center was a command chair surrounded by holographic display nodes. The ceiling stretched up 3 stories high. "Why would anyone build a bridge this large?" Yuna asked. "It's completely inefficient." "Redundancy," Hana said softly. "If the main systems fail, there's room for backup crews to work manually." Tae-sung moved to the main computer core. "Let's see if we can access their records. Maybe we can figure out who built this thing." He activated his universal interface tool and connected it to the ancient computer. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, Power began flowing through the system. Lights flickered on across the bridge. Screens activated, displaying information in that same unknown language, and then a logo appeared on the main screen, a symbol of a planet with a single moon, surrounded by stars. Below it, text that made Hana's breath catch in her throat. United Earth Space Vessel Taihyun. Minho stared at the screen. Earth? That's the human homeworld. But this can't be. Computer, translate all text, Taesung commanded. The coalition computer analyzed the language. Translation complete. Language identified as Korean Earth origin. Secondary languages detected English, Mandarin, Spanish, Arabic. The bridge fell silent. Every eye turned to Dr. Hana. She stood frozen, staring at the screen. This is a human ship, she whispered. Minho's laugh was sharp and disbelieving. Impossible. Humans barely have FTL technology. You've only been in space for 40 years. This ship is ancient. Run a dating analysis, Taesung ordered. He kept his voice calm, but his mind was racing. The science team set up their equipment. They took samples of the hull metal, analyzed the radiation exposure, measured the decay of isotopes in the ship's structure. The results took 20 minutes to process. The lead scientist, a crystalline crinarian named Youngsu, reviewed the data 3 times before speaking. Commander, according to our analysis, this vessel is approximately 60 years old. Built around the year 2787. That's impossible, Minho said. Humans didn't have FTL technology 60 years ago. They didn't even know we existed. Hana's voice was barely audible. We knew. Everyone turned to look at her. What did you say? Taesung asked. Hana took a deep breath. Her hands were shaking now, and she made no attempt to hide it. This ship was built 60 years ago, 7 years before first contact. We knew you were out here. We knew about the coalition, and we built ships like this in secret. Why? Yuna asked. Because we needed to be ready, Hana said. Because we detected something else out here. Something worse than we could handle alone. So we built ships. We built weapons. We built an entire fleet that we never told you about. Taesung stared at the human woman. You're telling me that humanity has had military vessels of this scale for 60 years, and you kept it secret from the entire Galactic Coalition? Not just vessels, Hana said, her voice growing stronger. Ships like this, supercarriers, battleships, an entire fleet designed for war. This ship isn't ancient. It's not primitive. It was built specifically to fight something that scared us more than anything else in the galaxy. Minho's scales flushed dark with anger. This is treason. You lied to us. You pretended to be primitive while hiding military technology. We didn't lie, Hana said. We just didn't tell you everything. Taesung held up a hand for silence. His mind was processing the implications. If humans had this level of technology, what else were they hiding? And more importantly, what had they been so afraid of that they felt the need to build ships like this? Download everything from this computer, he ordered. Every file, every log, every piece of data. We need to know what humanity has been doing for the past 60 years. As the team worked to extract the data, Hana stood alone, staring at the symbol of her homeworld on the screen. She had known this day would come eventually. The secret was too big to keep forever. But she had hoped they would have more time. The question now was simple. Would the coalition see humanity as allies who had been preparing to protect the galaxy? Or as enemies who had been lying from the very beginning? The answer to that question would determine whether humans would be welcomed as full members of the galactic community or expelled as dangerous deceivers. Either way, nothing would ever be the same again.